Hey there, Kate Lumpkin here, founder of Soul Bloom Ayurveda, and today we are going to be talking about the Ayurvedic doshas. So, just a little recap, Ayurveda is the sister science of yoga. It is a holistic science coming from India where we understand and look at each individual based on their unique needs and determining from their constitution, so their foundational principles of what makes this individual healthy through diet, exercise, herbs, etc. We are going to look at each individual separately to determine what makes them healthy, what is their medicine, because what may be medicine for me may be poison for you, because at a foundational level, you and I are not the same. No matter how many qualities we have that are similar, we still are not exactly the same. And so in Ayurveda, we have three doshas. And really, the only word that I think is very equivalent to the word dosha is archetype. So if you think about archetypes, it's a kind of like characteristics that have been noticed and patterns that are noticed over time that kind of group people together. They group people together at a high level, they group symptoms together at a high level, but you have to really understand each individual to, give them a very specific protocol. But we do start to notice patterns. And so when I say the word dosha, just kind of think of an archetype. And so the three doshas of Ayurveda are Vata, Pitta, and Kapha. And today we're going to be talking about each one very kind of broadly, and then I will do a separate training or a webinar on each of those individual doshas very, very much more specifically. So let's talk about Vata, Pitta, Kapha dosha. When it comes to physical attributes, when it comes to mental and emotional, and even maybe a little bit of spirituality in this as well. So Vata dosha, you spell Vata, V-A-T-A. Vata dosha, which you'll primarily hear as the dosha that is pertaining to those archetypes of the individuals who are super creative. These are the individuals who are bubbly, outgoing, very much living in their head, their upper energy. Their energy is kind of up and out. And the reason for that is because the Vata dosha is made up of the two elements of air and ether. And as we have discussed on a previous recording, air and ether are extremely light quality elements. They're light, they are flowy, they are very subtle, they're very cold. So the Vata dosha are these individuals who have a lot of that light energy about them. They're bubbly. They're not too heavy in the inertia or, can get depressed a lot. They're more so like have this almost like if they're out of balance, erratic, anxious kind of energy. But they're also super creative and bubbly and they're the life of the party. From a physical standpoint, if we think about the elements of air and ether, it's super light. So Vata individuals are very thin. They're naturally thin people. I have a lot of Vata dosha in my physical body, as well as my mental emotional, but I can tell because like my bones are just naturally very small. If I were to take my middle finger, my thumb, and place them around my wrist, see how they overlap? That's how I can tell that I have small bones. And I can tell by my fingers are thin. I just naturally am very thin. And, it takes a lot for me to, if I were to, be overweight, it would take a lot for me to get there because I have a lot of this Vata quality. So Vata individuals are thin, they may be tall, they may be lanky, and these are the people who just kind of don't naturally have a lot of curves. And, as much as I would love to be curvy, I just won't because my constitution, how I was born, is thin with thin bones and not a lot of fat on them. And so it's very important for Vata individuals to ensure that they are getting enough fat and hydration and warmth because we are smaller, where we have those cold qualities. So we may have cold hands and feet. We may, not have a lot of fat on our bones, so we may have a nervous system that requires more fat in order to be healthy. And so just from like that physical standpoint, these are the people who are just naturally thin. That is a Vata individual. And from the mental emotional standpoint, a Vata person who is balanced, They are going to be bubbly, creative, outgoing. They enjoy being around people. Maybe they're a little bit of an extrovert. But when a Vata person is out of balance, they're going to be very anxious. They have that air erratic quality about them. They live up in their head. They're worried about everything. Their energy is just up and out. They don't feel grounded. It's the person who's like always, picking at something or just, when you get around people and they just kind of make you feel a little uncomfortable. Just their energy seems a little off, a little erratic. That is someone with a Vata imbalance. They don't feel grounded. They feel kind of all over the place. Actually, schizophrenia has been associated with the Vata dosha. And so, from that mental emotional standpoint, it's very important for a Vata person to have more balance by being more grounded, by offsetting those qualities of cold, light, dry with warmth, hydration, and, just taking a little bit slower. And so, we'll get more into that, but that is a Vata individual. And I just want to remind you, we have all of the doshas, we have all of the elements in us at all times. It's just the percentages are going to be a little bit different. So I may have a lot of Vata and a little bit of Kapha and a lot of Pitta. You're going to have all three as well, just in different percentages as also. So we'll get more into that. But the next dosha is Pitta, Pitta. And I also identify very much with the Pitta dosha. And you know how you can tell if someone has a lot of the Pitta dosha? If they have red hair. Automatically is a fire sign. So Pitta is made of the two elements of fire and water. And when we think about the water element, it's more of like an oily type of water. If you think about gasoline on a fire, it just ignites it. So Pitta is fire and water. If we think about the qualities of fire, it's hot, it's spreading, it is penetrating, it's intense, it is oily. If we think about water, it's the same thing. It's spreading. Water is just flowy, right? If it's that oil, and it's also that oily quality. And so when we think about pittas from the standpoint of the physical, these are people who are bodybuilders. Like they have ripped muscles. They go to the gym like two times and you already see like their bicep definition and their obliques and their abs. They just like can gain muscle very easily and it's very defined. A lot of celebrities are very pitta because they just have like really, really great muscle tone. And a lot of athletes are pitta as well. And that kind of just comes from the mental and emotional standpoint. But you can tell if someone has a lot of pitta dosha if they are just ripped and you can tell that they just have so much muscle definition. I do have some pitta and I can have muscle definition because I also have vata, so I don't have a lot of body fat. However, my muscles are more lean, they're long. Pittas are going to be more bulky. In terms of like size, pittas are pretty medium sized. They're not thin, they're not super curvy, they're just kind of medium. These are the people when it comes to like skin, these are the people who may have more redness in their skin because of that fire element that's just within their body. They may be, prone to acne, skin rashes, hives. They can break out easily. They just have like skin stuff going on, right? That's that spreading quality. And a lot of times, like in the summer, for example, we will have more skin issues. And that's because summer is the pitta time of the year. And so from that physical standpoint, we're looking at, are they kind of medium sized? If we were to take again that middle finger and the thumb and put it around the wrist, that is when the fingers are going to touch. They're not going to overlap or they're not going to be super far apart. They're going to kind of just the tips of the fingers are going to touch together, or maybe they're slightly apart. They have medium-sized bones. From a mental emotional standpoint with the Pitta dosha, again, coming back to that fire element, what is fire all about? It's intensity. These are the people who are super competitive. Like they want to get in there. They are goal setters. They are the doers. They are the people who get out of their way because they're going to get the stuff done. Don't hold them back. These are the attorneys, the lawyers, the teachers, the CEOs, the people who wake up in the morning just ready to seize the day. From a mental and emotional standpoint, I have a lot of Pitta dosha. And when it's balanced, I get things done and I'm organized and I'm excited and I have a lot of passion and a lot of fire. But when it gets out of balance, when Pitta is out of balance, what does fire do? It consumes, it spreads. You can't stop it. And so when Pitta is out of balance, it gets very angry and frustrated, judgmental, critical, workaholic. It can't be stopped. It's too intense. And so a lot of times, for me, when I see that I have, that fire in me, I'm getting really frustrated very easily, which I can do. I can get out of balance really easily. It's like, how do I offset that heat? I have to start bringing in some cooler grounding qualities. I have to not eat the spicy foods. I need to not be go, go, go. I have to have time in my day to find spaciousness, to have pockets of time where I'm not doing things. Otherwise, my mind turns on and says, "Drrrr, these are all the things I have to do. I don't have time to do them all." And I just get frustrated about it. These are the people in the middle of the night where they wake up and they're like, oh, my to-do list. And they can't fall back asleep. That is that pitta type of mind. These are the people who need to either outsource or write things down and make a list of each day what they're going to do and realize that how what they can handle with the time that they have and find more time to just relax, which is the hardest thing for a person with a lot of pitta in their mental emotional body to do. And then, so do you identify with any of that? Maybe you identify with a little bit of Vata. Maybe you identify with a little bit of the Pitta from either the physical side or the mental and emotional. And then we're going to come to the last dosha, which is Kapha. Kapha is spelled Kaph. You may also hear it pronounced Kappa or Kapha. And Kappas are the nurturing, loving, grounded, slower dosha. So, Kapha people, those are the elements that are made of water and earth. And when you put water and earth together, what do you get? You get mud. And mud is heavy. Heavy, it's cool, it's slow, it's dense. Like if you were to put a bunch of mud into a bucket and then try to pick it up, it's going to be really heavy. And so, if you know me personally, my husband is very Kaphic. From a physical standpoint, people who are Kaphic tend to be bigger boned naturally. There's nothing they can do about getting rail thin because they can't, because their bones are naturally bigger. They're denser. If they were to take that middle finger and thumb around their bones, they aren't going to touch. There's going to be a gap between them because their bones are bigger. They have the heaviest set of bones out of any of the doshas. These are the bodybuilders, but like the really thick bodybuilders who are super strong. Kapha people always win the bodybuilding competitions because they are just the strongest of all doshas. They are the bulls. They are the people who, even if they were to go on the craziest diet, they will never look like a Gwyneth Paltrow because they can't. Their body just isn't like that. These are the Adeles who naturally have those curves on them. That she's very Kaphic. Um, and so, from a physical standpoint, these people are just naturally bigger. They have the bigger hips, they have the large breasts, they have the big booty. Those are the people who wear the juicy pants and it looks good on them. And that is just a Kaphic individual. So, you will be able to tell, if you're looking at someone who's very thin, that person has a lot of Vata in their physical. This person is super ripped. They have a lot of Pitta. And this person over here is just bigger bone. They just look strong. They are very Kaphic. And so, from a mental and emotional standpoint with Kapha, let's go back to the elements. It's water and it's earth. It is that mud. These are the people who are naturally slower. They speak slower. They take time to think about what they want to say. They're just naturally slower. In one of my daughter's favorite movies, Zootopia, there is a sloth in one of the scenes, and the sloth moves super slow. That is a Kaphic type of person. But it's also, when a Kaphic person is balanced, they are that rock. That is the friend who you feel like you can go to with anything and they are there for you. They are very stable. They don't change a lot of things up, They just kind of like their routine and they like what they like and they kind of stay within that little box that they've made for themselves. Sometimes you have to really push a Kaphic outside of their comfort zone. Otherwise, they get stuck in that mud. But they're also just, the nurturers. Like when I think about, for me, I have a lot of like Vata and Pitta in my physical and mental and emotional body. But where my Kaphic side of the dosha comes in is when I mother my children. It's very, very nurturing. It's very loving. It's very sweet. It is the stability dosha. But when a Kaphic dosha is out of balance, that is when there can be that depression, that heaviness. Again, think about mud. This is when you just have no zest. This is when you have no passion or excitement. You're just kind of feel like blah, you know? And this is where you need a little bit of that fire element to get you excited. It's where you need a little bit of that lightness to get you up and get your energy up and out. The depressed kind of energy is what? Down. Your energy is down. And that is where we have to balance that out. So when there's a Kaphic person who is depressed, who is really attached to things, who can't let go, who has, a lot of codependency issues, who is just stuck in their ways, super stubborn. It's like, how do we get you to lighten up? We need you to go move your body. We need you to do the opposite things of just sitting there all day. We need you to get you up and out, get you outside in the sun. And so you'll see a lot of times, like in the winter months, a lot of people, no matter, what you primarily identify as in terms of dosha, a lot of us have kind of those more low key types of vibes because what's going on outside? It's cold, like it's earthy, it's damp. Those are all qualities of the Kaphic dosha. And so again, I want to say this because I've heard so many times when I talk to people about Ayurveda, they're like, I am only Kaphic and I have no Vata or Pitta. Or I'm only Pitta. I've heard a trainer tell me this one time. He said, I'm only Pitta. I have no Vata or Kapha. And I'm like, that's not true. You have all of them. Your Pitta you just might be like 95% Pitta and 3% Vata and then 2% Kapha. But you have all of the doshas. They're just going to be in different percentages because all the doshas, all three of those doshas, Vata, Pitta, Kapha, they have all those five elements. And within us at all times, we have the five elements. So how we approach Ayurveda is understanding what am I identifying with? What dosha am I identifying most with? And as I learn more about those doshas, are they in balance or are they out of balance? Am I easily frustrated? So my pitta is out of balance. Do I, or am I depressed? So my kapha is out of balance. Or do I feel really creative and excited and, want to make things? Well, my vata is in balance. And that's what's so fun about Ayurveda is you start to really understand yourself. And then you also get to start to understand people around you. You'll start to kind of profile almost, your friends and family because you're like, ooh, that person's out of balance here. And I wish I could tell them how I can help them. But this is kind of the first approach. So, I want you to listen to this and kind of start thinking about yourself. Do you feel like you're a little bit more vata, a little bit more pitta, a little more kapha? What about the physical and what about the mental and emotional? And I also just want to say one more thing. I know this is a lot to throw at you in one day, but it's also going to change with the seasons of life. When you're younger, you're more energized, right? When you hit menopause, you're naturally going to be more dry and maybe a little bit more anxious because you have a lot of these menopausal symptoms that are, dry and airy, which are, is a vata imbalance. And, also the times of the year. In winter, which is a more Kaphic time of year, we're going to feel a little bit more slower. In summer, which is a hot time of year, our pitta is going to be off the charts. And so we're going to learn this over time, but just understand that like when you approach Ayurveda, you're approaching it as who you are today. That's how you heal. Not how was I 10 years ago? How are you today? Where are you out of balance? today? How do we figure out what is out of balance today to get you back to your original nature? And so hopefully you learned something today. We're going to be diving deeper into each individual dosha. And then we're going to continue this ride together and building that foundation of the house. So I hope you learned something and thank you for sticking with me this far.